Hi, gang. As you know, we have recently switched over to Canvas, and so we will be using the Canvas platform for the rest of the year. At this point, you will notice that there are some things on my homepage that'll help you get started and know where to go. And if you have any questions, you need to make sure that you contact me as soon as possible so that I can get you up and running. One of the things that I want to talk about today specifically is learning to active read. We are going to spend quite a bit of time on active reading this year. It's really important to Mr. Herman and I that you use this technique, especially as text becomes much more difficult. I want to show you today why active reading is important. Then I want to practice with you doing an active read together. And finally, you're going to practice active reading on your own for a homework assignment. If we click on Learning to Active Read, we will see that there is a brief explanation that tells us a little bit about it by saying active reading means the reader is engaged in the text that he or she is reading. You can be an active reader by, and then it gives you 4 examples. We're going to take those 4 examples and look at them much more closely. When we're active reading, the first thing that we need to think about is the purpose that we define for reading. Why is it that we need to read this specific text? Oftentimes, with difficult material or material that we don't want to read, it's hard to find a specific purpose for reading. But we really need to define that up front so that we are able to pull out the main ideas as we go through the reading. So we start by first defining the purpose or the focus of our active reads. This will allow us to target the information that is most important and leave the information behind that is the least important. You should be confident in what you read, and you should be able to remember what you read by just defining the purpose for our reading. In this case, it is required in all of your, both your reading class and your Western Civilizations class, that when you active read, you will be reading for a purpose. And as we read, we will underline things that help to answer the question that we have identified as our purpose or focus for reading. The second thing that we're going to concentrate on is connections, making connections to the text. It's important to understand that at your age, you have learned a lot of information. We want to be able to access that information as we read. And sometimes we do this even without thinking about it. Making connections allows us to connect or remind ourselves of knowledge that we had previously learned, and we can connect to the new material. In this case, when we are active reading, we're going to put a comment next to the place where you will make a connection. Please make sure that your comment identifies specifically why you're making that connection in that particular area. Our third area of focus is questioning. It's very important, especially during this time of our lives, to question text. So often it is easy to fool many people with fake news and fake texts. This is common from the oldest to the youngest persons living in the United States. We need to be discerning learners, discerning readers, and question the text. We want to ask questions like, why did the author say that? Is that true? Can you make sure that you can find some other resource that will say the same thing? Those are the kinds of questions that we want to ask our text. When we are active reading, we will put a question mark next to the text that we are questioning. We will write down our question, and then we're going to try and answer our own question. I understand that sometimes your question and answer will be wrong, but that's okay. I want you to put all of your thinking on the paper that's in front of you. The fourth way that we active read is by conjuring images in our head of what we're reading. Most people refer to this as visual thinking or putting pictures in our brain, or maybe even watching a movie in our heads. These people and people who are good at this are able to watch an entire movie while reading a book. It enables them to really connect to the text. We are going to use this technique so that when we say words, specifically vocabulary words, everyone in our area, in our sphere, is going to be able to identify and address that vocabulary word with the same picture or image. It's important that when we're reading, we add images to the margin of our text. This is essential when we are reading things about how different battles played out. You may be told that this group of people or this legion of people traveled from this destination to that destination. You need to be able to picture that in your brain. And that's why we're going to use image as an active reading technique or skill. So there are 4 areas in which we're focusing. 1, underline all things that identify the purpose or the focus. 2, making connections to the text. 3, making sure that you question the text. And 4, adding images where you can. So now that we understand a little bit more about active reading, let's do it ourselves. We're going to click next, which is going to take us to another page. It's going to ask us to load the reading practice in a different window. We're going to click this tool because we're going to actually encounter a new tool to use when we are active reading called Kami. You may not see this picture when you first click that link. It may ask you to log in. Go ahead and log in using your Google username and password. This will allow you to access Kami. Please make sure that you go through all of the steps until you reach a page that looks like this. This page that we're going to practice on is a very short text and it's very easy. But I wanted it to be short and easy so that it would be we would be able to get through our first practice together. The first thing that I want us to do is click on the text box option in the toolbar on the left. Then we're going to come and place the text box on the name line and type in our name. This text box will grow the more you type. There we are on that first line. If you wanted to delete and try again, you can always click on the red circle and it will take away the text. But for right now, I think that that's okay. Now I want to go over here and click shapes. I'm going to click the circle and I want to indicate that I am Miss Letterber's student and I'm in period 1, 2, 8, or 9. I'm going to choose period 2 for this. Your responsibility is to circle my name because you belong to me, and then whatever period you have Western Civ. So far, so good. Now it's our job as an individual to decide what is the focus for us reading. We're still going to go back here and use text box, and we're going to click right here. Now, when we choose a focus for reading, we want to do that by looking at the title of the reading. In this case, the title is, Why Did Rome Fall? When we are looking at our focus for reading, we know that we want to, at the end of this article, be able to answer the question, why did Rome fall? Every time that you type a focus into this box, it will always, always, always be in the form of a question. So we're going to write it just like it says. Why did Rome fall? Question mark. Oops, excuse me. Didn't spell that correctly. That's our most important question. That's going to frame all of our understanding of this particular text. In the key over here, we're going to include another text box, and we're going to identify all 4 areas in which I've already explained we could actively read. We're going to underline for focus. We're going to comment for connections. We're going to put a question mark for questions. And last but not least, we're going to include images for the pictures that are being played in your mind. My goodness, my spelling isn't very good today. Okay, there we go. So this is what we're looking for. We're looking for the answer to why Rome fell, and we're going to do that through 4 different means of active reading. So let's follow along as I read. The article starts with Rome, kingdom, republic, and empire together, lasted about 1,200 years. Some ruled all around the Mediterranean and the large sections of Europe and Southeast Asia. Yet, in the end, the problems grew too great and the Western Roman Empire fell. Now, we're going to go back up here to our question. Why did Rome fall? Is there anything in that paragraph that helps identify an answer to that question? Well, I think that there is. So I'm going to go up here to markup. I'm going to choose my pencil tool. You can choose a highlighter or other things. You can even choose this underline. That might be easiest. Then you can pick your color that you like. I'm going to pick something you can see like red. And then I'm going to underline this section right here. The problems grew too great. And as you can see, it automatically underlines that section for me. The question is, why did Rome fall? The answer would be the problems grew too great. Okay, going on. Why did the empire fall apart? There is no one single reason, but instead a series of problems that grew too large to solve. So I'm going to say a series of problems that grew too large to solve. That'll go right in there like that. Both of these go to answer the question, why did Rome fall? Continuing on. One impression was that the empire grew too large to govern. The Romans tried to solve this by dividing the empire into the Eastern Roman Empire and the Western Roman Empire. Going back up here to my question, why did Rome fall? The empire grew too large to govern. Super important there. Okay? Another problem was that the Roman men no longer wanted to serve in the army. The pay was not great. Sometimes the bargain was not paid at all. Most men did not want to be away from their families and friends for a long period of time. The Romans tried to solve this by hiring barbarians to fight for them. So in this paragraph, is there anything that goes back to answer why did Rome fall? And the answer is yes. Another problem was that Roman men no longer wanted to serve in the army. Okay? Okay. Continuing on. There were other problems. Civil wars broke out in Rome between different factions. The rich grew disinterested in helping Rome and only wanted more for themselves and their families. The population of Rome shrank. Trade decreased while taxes and prices increased. The poor were overtaxed. The use of slaves put people out of work. The roads fell into disrepair. Okay, so I'm going back to answer my question. Why did Rome fall? And it says civil war broke out. Now, at this point, you should have heard of a previous civil war, something that you can connect this civil war in the article to. So I'm going to actually make a comment here, and I'm going to click the comment tab, and then I'm going to do a text comment. I'm going to choose purple or blue, I think. And I'm going to come over here to this section that I want to put a comment on, and I'm going to click, and a blue dot will appear. But it also opens a text box here on the right. And in that text box, we would write, I knew about a civil war. It was between the North and South. No one really won. It was just all unfortunate. Okay? So we're putting a question in here, or we're going to put I'm sorry, we're going to put a comment in here that helps us understand what's going on here. I'm also going to actually put another comment right here because I want you to remember that we're talking about the United States currently. So when we say trade decreases while taxes and prices increase, do you see that happening? The answer is probably. So I'm going to write in this text box, I know that the prices around here are also being affected by COVID. Okay. And we know that because of COVID, prices are increasing and the amount of product is decreasing. And so we have a problem. We need to do something about it. So going on, the Romans were aware of these problems and and sometimes under a good emperor, they would work on for a while. In time, the good emperor would be gone and the bad one would take his place. So I'm going to put this over here like this. Okay? Oh, now I've made a highlight. That's not what I wanted. Okay, I'm going to go back to markup. There we go. Now I'm going to highlight and drag. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Soon the problem was in Western Roman Empire. Grew so great that the Western European Roman Empire, which was included in the city of Rome, fell to barbarian tribes in Europe. Now, I've had pretty much all of my underlines underlined, and I've added 2 comments. We probably now need to look back at questions and images. Well, one of the questions that I have is if you notice in the text, the word barbarian was used twice. And so I kind of want to know what that is. I don't seem to know what a barbarian is. So I'm going to click on this and I'm going to write, what the heck is a barbarian? Okay, we want to know, what is a barbarian? I don't know. So my answer might be someone who kills others for money. That might be my guess. It's not a bad guess because we know from our reading that the Romans are trying to solve their problem by paying people to do their dirty work. That would be the same concept here. Okay. Any questions about that? Okay, one more thing that I want to put in here, and that's an image. We still don't know what a barbarian looks like, but I'm going to guess we're going to find out. So if you come over here to image, you click on Google search and type in the word barbarian. In your Google search box will come up actual pictures of barbarians. Now, some are real and some are fake and some are cosplay and different things. Obviously, she's a super sexy barbarian, but you can kind of get an idea as they're like the rough and tumble crowd. Oh, I like this girl. We're going to pick her. She's going to be my representative of the Roman Empire. Okay. Now I'm going to squeeze her down. Hopefully. Oops. Oops. I'm having troubles here. There we go. We're going to make her smaller. We're going to stick her by the word barbarian. And now when I think about barbarian, I probably will see that crazy lady with a big sword. Okay? Simple as that. When you're finished, to get it to me, on the toolbar across the top, you will see a submit button right here. Once you click submit, you will get it directly to me and I'll be able to grade it. Okay, so this was practice. Now we're in for the real thing. If you go back to my Canvas course and click the tab that says next, it's going to take you into the assignment. It's going to say load 9/9/20, active reading in a new window. We're going to click yes. We want it to do that. Here it comes. So the first thing obviously I should see you do is put your name on your paper along with 2 circles, followed by another text box here in the focus. Now, if I was to ask you what the focus is this time, you would probably say the Pax Romana, which is true, but because we're always using a question, it should say, what is the Pax Romana? That's what we need to figure out. Oops, there we go. And because I'm feeling overly generous, we're going to make sure that you only have 2 things for your key. One is to underline. I can't see this. It's too small. Underline for focus, or excuse me, for, yes, focus. Pictures for images. Comments for okay. Comments for connections. And finally, question mark. Oh, no. Miss Letterber, I don't want you to do that. I want you to underline for focus, and I want you to put in comments for connections. And that's it. Just those two things. This is what I'm going to be grading you on. Do you do these two things, and do you do it well? From now on, every piece of paper we have that has text on it to be read will be actively read. A lot of times we're not going to give grades for active reading, but I better see it happening. It's essential that you use these skills that we just practiced every day in your Western Civ and reading classes. Thanks, and have a good day.